Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So today is November 21st, 2024. Time is 10:41 a.m. Eastern Time. Accept my apologies for being slightly late. Um, uh, Starting time was 10:30, but I was late on my side. This exam is for RQF Level 3, Diploma in Cloud Cybersecurity, right?
Yeah,
ECC. Okay, so Zayan Ahmed, right? Okay.
yeah.
So you did your O levels, you mentioned that, and which subjects you took in O levels?
Majorly the mathematics and I choose a mix, like I choose physics, then business studies, like that.
How many? What was your score like? Can you share that with me, please? Like to know.
Yeah, it was I guess 5 A's and 2 B's I guess and a C. So it was around 90% scholarship for A levels, but I joined Al Nafi.
So 5 A's. The C was in Islamiyat.
No, it was in
Oh,
computer
sorry,
sciences.
computer science, really?
Yeah,
Okay. And the B was in Urdu.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's good. We have some very exciting stuff coming up. So I'm going to give you some good recommendations once we are done with the exams. Okay, so your assessments that you have done are going through the checking process. I just wanted to
Mhm.
give you this, right? Those are open book assessments, right?
Right.
But if at any given point in time, if you're using automation scripts to perform those things, and our artificial intelligence picks it up, and lately it has been picking up different patterns and whatnot, and that is using a 407 billion model, so pretty complex, right? And it is able to detect many things based on your login time, your activity, your subjects. It just builds up a psychological and a logical profile, a virtual logical profile for you to peek in, uh, you know, into your brain and see how does and how do you really operate, right? In terms of like when it comes to studies. So there are multiple things coming up. If you find out that any of the students, I'm not naming you, but if you find out that any of the students who have attempted using scripts, because you can fail the first time, but you can pass the second time, the third time, and we always take the accumulated score, right? So first time you score
Right.
50%, second time you score 75, passing was 85, and the third time you get 85 or 100%. So first 50 plus 75 plus 85, 100, whatever, right? So for example, 100. So we take out the average of that and we give you 75% score. So everyone can pass. There is no need to cheat by creating scripts and whatnot. But if anyone who's caught cheating using scripts, automation scripts, to answer the questions and score 100% or anything like that, uh, if they accept that they made a mistake, we will give them a retry. If they deny that they didn't make a mistake and they in fact did perform some fraudulent activities and we have evidence, and I'm telling you the evidence is overwhelming, and if we put forward that evidence, then uh, their diploma will be canceled. So it only
Right.
happens if the person comes and tells us like, yeah, I made a mistake, please, you know because this is a new phenomena. And so we are, on a first come first serve basis, we give everyone a possibility to say, okay, we made a mistake, we didn't know, we didn't review the policies. Yes, it's written in the policies that we should not cheat or open book exam, etc., etc., but we accept our apologies, so please help us. So okay, we will give you a retry. But if we see that that person has in fact performed these activities, so then it goes on the second phase. And the second phase, there are different controls. First, we give them a test. Okay, show us this test right now. Just do it right now, right? If you
Yeah.
can't do it, give us the answer of this question right now as we speak. If you can't tell us, and if you can't do all of those questions in the record time that you're showing us, then obviously you have cheated the system and you're lying. And if you're caught
Yeah.
doing that, then we are canceling their diplomas and they are banned from the institute for at least 1 year. So I'm just telling everyone this is the process, right? Which is stipulated in the policy and procedures and everywhere, but people tend to forget, right?
Yeah.
We have started telling everyone the process. So everyone needs to follow the process. So be honest. And because we are not here to uh, push everyone on the sidelines, no, we are here to empower you. You can embrace AI and you should absolutely embrace AI, but you should be smart enough how to outwit AI as well at the same time, not just become like a mimicking parrot and just start copying everything, right? So don't do that. Okay, so Zayan Ahmed, I'm really happy you had 5 A's, 2 B's, 1 C. Unfortunately, the C was in computer science.
Yeah.
Going through the computer science exam right now. Uh, let's see. I have a clear mind. How are you going to perform? Please share your presentation. Followed by the presentation, you have 15 to 20 minutes, minimum 15, maximum 20, to present your topic. Followed by that, I will ask you 20 to 25 questions regarding, you know, uh, basically your topic, right? So, Bismillah,
Right.
you can proceed and let's see where it goes. Bismillah.
So is my screen visible?
No, it's not right now. It's loading on my side.
Okay.
Yes. Now I can see it. Foundation of Zero
Okay.
Trust Architecture with Open Source Identity Management.
Yeah. So Bismillah Rahman Rahim. My name is Zayan Ahmed, and today I'm going to present to you on the topic of foundations of zero trust architecture with open source identity management on AWS and Azure. So zero trust on cloud basically consists of these six major core fundamentals, and number one being never trust, always verify, which basically means that we never trust any request, any user, any entity, no matter their source, even if it's generating from our own internal organizational network. We always assume a request as a breach, right? So then comes the least privilege access, which basically means that we only grant access level to our roles to our users and devices and services that they need to perform their job. No extra permissions or roles attached. Then comes microsegmentation. So microsegmentation basically means that we divide our network layer in smaller components and smaller subnets so that it's easy to manage them in terms of security and the management overhead. So I have a example for this. So this is a image diagram for the Titanic ship, right? So as you can see, the bottom layer there are
I can't see
multiple.
the Titanic ship. No, I only see the first slide.
I don't know what's the issue.
Now I can see Zero Trust on Cloud. So,
Okay, I guess it would work like this. It won't show in present mode. Okay, we can do this like.
so you can just go one
Okay,
by
so
one. Yes.
yeah, okay. So zero trust. Should I explain this again?
No, no, it's okay because I have the presentation in front of me as well.
Okay.
But I'm just telling you that, when I looked
Yeah,
at
yeah.
it, I can see the Titanic ship. Okay. Because I have a copy of the presentation on which I'm making notes in front of me.
Okay. Okay. Right. So here we can see different parts or micro segments at the base level, right? So this was the main reason why women and children especially managed to save their lives from the Titanic incident. So no matter what you are designing, if it's a physical infrastructure just like a ship, or if it's a network, you should always consider the micro segmentation part. It comes in very handy in terms of emergency situations. Then continuous authentication basically means that we don't only rely on the initial login attempt or login procedure we have for our application. So for example, if a user provides their username and password and then they are logged in, we don't assume like they're a legit user. They can be someone who have compromised others passwords or credentials.
Can you please select
So
like topic, the continuous, after the Titanic ship? Because
yeah,
I'm still seeing Zero
yeah,
Trust on Cloud. Click on it at
yeah,
the
so it's right here. I'm
Okay.
explaining this one. So continuous authentication basically mean that we continuously authenticate our user using different machine learning tools or services. Then comes we can analyze the behavioral activities like the IP address or the location of the user, and based on that we can have conditions set. Then comes multi-factor authentication, which basically adds an additional layer of security on our authentication workflow, and we can use different Google Authenticator apps or Microsoft Authenticator biometrics to enhance this part. Then comes data encryption, which basically means that we encrypt and encode our data in unreadable formats using different algorithms and encryption keys. So even if our data is compromised and leaked, it cannot be understood or really be used by the attacker. And we can manage the encryption keys using different IAM roles and uh, policies. So now at the AWS part, so now we will discuss the four main components, first three being in this slide, for the implementation of zero trust model on AWS. So number one is common identity, which basically mean that we will manage our users and services, devices, anything using a single source. And the source is the IAM service, identity and access management. So we will, no matter how many AWS accounts we have, we will manage all our users at a single IAM service so that no conflicts of policies arise. Then comes implement single sign-on. So we can implement single sign-on, which basically means that our users can use a single set of credentials for logging and authentication for multiple accounts and applications. Use IAM MFA, which IAM MFA is a multi-factor authentication, which is native to IAM. We can implement MFA using IAM using different uh, authenticator apps or hardware tokens, etc. Then comes the endpoint level. By endpoint, we mean any type of communication within our infrastructure that requires to be secure. So it can be an API endpoint, it can be a device, it can be anything that requires communication within our infrastructure. And we can use systems manager, which is a configuration management tool for AWS. And just like we have Ansible, Puppet, or Chef, and we can use this to keep our infrastructure up to date in regards of their software updates, etc. Then comes IoT Device Defender, which is another wonderful service provided by AWS to managing our IoT devices. For example, if your organization manages their own devices, we can implement different policies and procedures to our native to our own devices managed by AWS IoT Device Defender. Then comes AWS Secret Manager and IAM roles. So Secret Manager is a service provided by AWS for storing and management of our secrets like API tokens, passwords, database usernames, etc. So we can use AWS Secret Manager along with AWS IAM roles. So this basically makes it possible for defining specific roles to that can be attached to specific users. So only those users can access our secrets stored in Secrets Manager. Then comes the network part. So Amazon VPC is the backbone service provided by AWS for the network area. So we can define our own custom cloud in terms of network. Then security groups and network access control is. So security group are just like simple or mini firewalls, you can say, that we can attach to different EC2 instance or load balancers, etc. And network access control lists are basically we can define different incoming and outgoing traffic rules, or they are basically stateless. Security groups are stateful and network access control lists are stateless, and we can define them at the subnet level. And they provide network isolation and traffic filtering, enable secure access using AWS Client VPN or AWS Direct Connect. So these are the two main services provided by AWS for connection of your on-premises data center to the cloud. Client VPN basically provides this connection through the VPN connection over internet, and AWS Direct Connect provides the end customer with the service of installing physical high quality optic cables that are fast in connection, and they manage all the connection part. AWS Network Firewall, this is a full-fledged firewall service provided by AWS for management of your traffic monitoring and filtering. So it's a very powerful service where you can define every rule you can imagine. So at fourth we have data. So at the data level, we can encrypt our data, even if it's in transit or at rest, using AWS Key Management Service and S3 encryption. So AWS Key Management Service is a service for managing of our encryption keys, and S3 encryption is a native feature for S3 service, which we can use for encryption of our data stored in S3. Use IAM policies and S3 bucket policies. So just like we have AWS managed policies, we have our own custom policies so that we can define more granular permissions for who and where he can and the user can access data. Then comes Amazon Mackie, which is a wonderful service. It's a machine learning service basically that will automatically scan your infrastructure and look for any anomaly or unsecure posture of data. So if it looks, for example, it will look for PII, personally identifiable information, and if it's find anything like that, it will automatically contain that using encryption. So now we'll discuss the zero trust model on Microsoft Azure. So similarly, here we have four main components. Number one being common Active Directory, which just like we have IAM in AWS, we have Active Directory or AD on Azure. So no matter how many accounts or subscriptions we have on Azure, we will manage our users centrally using a single Active Directory. Implement conditional access. So one of the most major interesting feature I find in Azure Active Directory is conditional access. So this we can use this feature for defining different conditions among which the user will be evaluated before being granted access. So for example, we can define a condition, let's say that a user from this particular CIDR block IP will be able to access our organizational infrastructure, or users after office timings won't be allowed to access our infrastructure. We can define any conditions we want. We can be creative with this. So strengthen security with Azure ADMFA. So just like we have IMMFA, we have ADMFA for Azure native to Active Directory. We can use different Google Authenticator apps or Microsoft Authenticator apps or hardware tokens, biometrics, etc. So at the endpoint level, we have Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is a wonderful service, and it basically provides the capability for automatically detecting all the endpoints in your infrastructure and automatically uh, implementing encryption or if it finds any anomaly, it can give you an alert, and ensure devices meet security standards using Intune. So if your organization is managing the devices, we can use Intune for mobile device management, for defining different policies and etc. And implement just-in-time access with Azure AD Privileged Identity Management. So if your organization has some super secret data, super confidential data, we can use these features. It will basically allow us to implement approval gateways, and for example, if a user, or let's say if an engineer in your organization needs to access a database that has very sensitive data, let's say login information, so you can have different approval gateways from the higher management, and only if they are approved, the user will be granted access. Or else we can have just-in-time access, where we can define specific slots for a user to access this data. So and then at network level, we have Azure Virtual Network, which we can use just like VPC to define different virtual networks for different use cases and different applications. Network security group, just like we have security groups in AWS, you have network security groups. We can define different inbound and outbound traffic rules using at the port level or at the host, or sorry, at the source level, etc. Secure remote access with Azure VPN Gateway or Azure Bastion. So we can use VPN Gateway for connecting our cloud infrastructure to our on-premises data centers using a VPN connection. Azure Bastion is not I would say service, but it's more of uh, I would say a tool or a concept where we can use a specific server. It can be a VM, and it can act as a bastion host. So any server sitting behind our bastion host will be super secure. So it will basically, the server we want to secure won't be assigned a public IP. For example, if we have multiple Jenkins servers, you don't want them to be accessible from the internet. So we will not assign a public IP to our Jenkins server, let's say. And then we have a Bastion host, and it's another VM which has a public subnet, sorry, public IP, and only this particular Bastion host will be able to access the SSH port of our private servers, right? So then we can have super secure procedures for authentication to our Bastion host. We can define specific CIDR blocks using security groups, sorry, network security groups, through which the Bastion host will be accessible. And we can even provide our own IP instead of the whole CIDR range. So this makes it super secure, but at the same time, this also introduces a single point of failure. If your Bastion host is compromised, everything is gone. Then come Azure Firewall. So Azure Firewall is the proper firewall service provided by Azure for management of traffic. Sorry. So data level, we can encrypt our data using Azure Key Vault, which is a service for managing our encryption keys. Then we have Azure Storage Service Encryption, which is another service just like S3 encryption, sorry, another feature where we can encrypt our data stored in Azure. Use role-based access control. We can define specific roles for each user. Microsoft Purview, it's a very powerful service for data management. We can have different scheduled scans for scanning of different unencrypted data or sensitive data, just like we have Mackie. We can have management of our metadata. We can generate graphs, etc. So now let's compare these two. I won't say compare these two, but just go over all the important points. So in AWS, we have centralized access control. We can centrally manage our users. Role-based access control, we can define granular permission for each of our users. Policy-based management, we have different policies, each for our user, and AWS have AWS managed policies, and we can also create our own policies. So we can be more granular and specific with our own policies. Temporary access tokens, we can use temporary access tokens for defining tokens that get expired after, let's say, each day. And if a token is compromised, it won't be that big of a deal because it will be expired soon. Then comes federated authentication support. So we can use third-party identity providers like Google or Facebook or GitHub, etc. And then comes resource isolation using different roles and policies. We can isolate our roles. At AWS Active Directory Enterprise-grade identity management, it's a powerful IAM solution. Single sign-on, we have discussed it. We can use single sign-on to give our employees the capability to log in into multiple Azure accounts or multiple custom application accounts using a single set of credentials. Azure AD B2B, this is a wonderful service. Let's say your organization is working with a partner organization, and you are working on a project that requires the other engineers from the other organization to log into your infrastructure. So you can use the service to manage their users. You won't need to create new users or credentials for those. You will only invite them, and you can use their accounts access to your infrastructure using this service. B2C, business to consumer, this is another service where you manage the end customers authentication part. So for example, if you are hosting your application on Azure, you can use the service to look after the authentication part. MFA, just like we have MFA in AWS, self-service password resets. So you can use this feature for giving the users the capability of resetting their passwords if they need to securely. Conditional access, we have discussed that we can define specific conditions for users to access our infrastructure. Okay, so in terms of open source identity management, we have these three major ones, but today for our exam topic, we have the main focus on Keycloak. Okay, so Keycloak is an open source IAM solution, which basically means it's free of cost, provides single sign-on for modern applications. We have discussed that, supports OAuth 2, OpenID Connect, and SAML protocols. These are the three main protocols, OAuth 2 being the one that uses JWT tokens, JSON Web Tokens, OpenID Connect, uses access tokens. SAML uses XML docs or SAML assertions. Then comes identity federation. We can use third-party identity providers like Google, Facebook, LDAP, etc. Role-based access control for user permissions, customizable authentication flows with multi-factor authentication. So you can add different authentication flows along with MFA. You can have biometric scans, etc. User federation, if your organization is, sorry.
No, nothing. I'm just listening.
Okay, so if your organization is using LDAP or Active Directory already, you can easily integrate that into your key clock. So now comes the third last slide, real life implications. So secure user access across platforms. So using key clock, we can use single sign-on to provide like safe and secure access through multiple applications, no matter if it's cloud access or a custom application or anything your organization is using. This reduces the password fatigue. Your employees don't need to manage multiple passwords, and this obviously strengthens your security. Centralized identity management. You can centrally manage all your users and permissions across your organization using Keycloak. Enhance security with multi-factor authentication. You can use multi-factor authentication to enhance your security, and this makes sure that only the person intended to have access is granted access. Integration with legacy and modern systems. It easily integrates with LDAP, Active Directory, or even third-party providers like Google, Facebook, etc. So here's a simple diagram. Let's say you have a company, ABC company, and they can implement Keycloak at the authentication layer, and then the user, based on their permissions, they will be able to access AWS accounts, Azure account, custom applications, etc. So at the last, we have zero trust model for network. So in terms of network is where every breach starts mostly. So this is the most important layer where we have to ensure it's secure, right? Because that's the majority of the cases. This is the entry point, the network. So end-to-end encryption basically mean that we want our communication to be encrypted all the time. So we can use different tools like different protocols like TLS or IPsec for encryption of our internet network traffic. Dynamic policy-based firewalls. We will try to define as micro parameters, as granular policies as possible. For example, we won't just say allow HTTPS traffic. We can, or sorry, allow SSH traffic. We can say allow SSH traffic only from this particular CIDR block as a source. So these are the simple examples. Microsegmentation, we will want our network to be isolated and divided into smaller subnets, so that each subnet has its own particular routes, its own particular internet gateway if needed. So like for example, we can have a private subnets for our databases and public for our web applications. Intrusion detection and prevention systems. So these are a type of firewalls where they not only prevent the attackers but also detect any anomaly. So it can detect any, let's say, uh, anomaly, and it will automatically remediate that, or it will give you an alert. So these are the particular solutions for the network level, and that's all from my side.
Okay, that's good.
Can I stop sharing my screen?
And stop the sharing.
Okay.
So Zayan, your presentation was clean and clear, but like it was just going in a static way, right? So you have to add some, I would say, some kind of element where you add excitement, right? I know the topics are very dry because they are talking about cybersecurity and Keycloak, and Keycloak is widely used, by the way, right, in the industry. When if you look for the jobs, you will see these topics are based on job descriptions, right? So you will see
Right.
that Keycloak is primarily used in the US and the G20 countries, specifically by large organizations, where they tend to use this along with RabbitMQ and multiple other technologies, right? So this was a level 3, which was equivalent to A level qualification in terms of credits and everything. That's why a topic was is very restricted. So I'm not going to go deeper, but I'm still going to ask you some questions regarding that. The knowledge part, it is yet to be tested. We have to see because the presentation is evaluated as per the flow, the presentation of how it looks like, the knowledge, and the communication, right? And as I mentioned, it was just going static. There was no heartbeat. See? So you
Okay.
need to add some things in there. Okay, so let's start the Q&A session. I have some questions for you. I'm going to go back and forth in terms of asking you different questions. So just bear with me. So, what challenges do you see when you are integrating Keycloak with the legacy systems like LDAP or Active Directory? Not the online, but basically not the cloud versions, but the legacy system. Like it's a Windows 2008 Active Directory, obsolete, legacy. Windows 2000, some of the older versions are still available in the market. They're still being used. What happens? What are
Yeah.
other challenges?
So yeah. So I would say the number one challenge is the integration part. It requires expertise to integrate with, especially with the legacy systems. And then comes the permissions part. I would say like integrating Keycloak with the permissions and roles in Active Directory can be challenging. And
So essentially, it's
mm,
the compatibility issue. Challenges include compatibility issues, schemas. The way it is designed is very different, right?
yeah,
So it's essentially the data migration issues. So there's a ton of issues and inconsistent access policies mapping, right? So it'll be very complex. Okay. Uh, how would you design a zero trust architecture for a multi-cloud environment using AWS and Azure? Something that I asked yesterday as well during my question Q&A. How would we do that? This is a very
okay,
detailed job-specific question. I'm going to ask you job-specific questions regarding these things. And what I do is like, I take out the job descriptions, what employers are looking for, and then I will pose that question.
yeah,
Okay, so please
okay.
proceed.
So the number one part is the role mappings. For example, we will use AWS IAM roles and permissions to map it with the key clock, and then we will use Azure Active Directory roles and permissions and RBAC service to ensure the role mappings. And this is one of the major part of this. And then the user management is quite uh, cumbersome because it gets very difficult if your
So one,
organization is
one
scaling.
answer. It's a very simple answer.
Okay,
It starts with F,
so user federation.
federated identity, centralized identity management system using Cloak with federation authentication.
Yeah,
That's what I was looking.
yeah, user federation.
Okay, so give me a slide. Slide is pretty heavy, right? Your slide. I mean, it has so many questions. So one of the things I saw was, give me 1 minute. On one of the slides, it is mentioned Azure AD B2C business to consumer.
Yeah.
Why not B2B? Why B2C?
Okay, so B2B is basically for business to business integration in terms of users management, but B2C is for the end customer, for the end user base. For example, if you are running your application on Azure app, then you can use a B2C for handling the user authentication and
Why
user
do we have
management
to
part.
maintain two Active Directories? Why not just one? It'll be easier.
So there are different use cases. Like B2B is usually used for handling users from external organization in terms of the cloud access. but B2C is for your own application access, for example, the login information and all that stuff.
So if a vendor comes on site and he wants to access the system, would we use B2B or B2C?
B2B.
This is very important. Write it down. When you go for the
Okay.
interview, they're going to ask you this question. Because normally what happens is just like in any organization, there are vendors who wants to perform diagnostic services or work, right? And they're
Yeah.
accessing these systems through the cloud. So the reason that organizations wants to keep two Active Directory services is because one is for internal business, one is for external, right? Just before
Okay.
coming over here, I was in a meeting with our DevSecOps team, and I discussed with them, we have internal applications and we have external applications. Internal applications are the ones that we only use. External applications are the ones that our customers, our students use. They also use that, and we also use that as well. So you need to understand the distinction between internal and external context of the
Yeah.
application and cloud services. Okay, this is
Right.
extremely important for you because when you go into the market and apply for jobs, that's what you have to go through. How old are you?
I'm 19 years.
19 years. Interesting. Interesting. I'm really happy that young people are jumping in. So how do AWS System Manager and Azure Intune support endpoint level zero trust strategies?
Yeah, so System Manager is a configuration management tool where we can perform bulk operations in terms of system management using different scripts, etc. For example, like we have Ansible playbooks, we can run different scripts for updating our software, etc. And in terms of Intune, it's for IoT device management. We can define different updates or policies or access level
Any
permissions,
endpoint
etc.
device, not only IoT, it can be for any kind
It's
of.
API, etc. Any server, etc.
Okay. All right. So what tool and matrix would you use to monitor and validate the effectiveness of your zero trust strategy? What would you use differently?
So in terms of metrics, I would consider,
The CTO, we have a chief technology officer, right? So once I was sitting in a meeting with the CTO and he said something very profound. Then I wrote it down and I said, okay, this is something I need to write it down. He said, whatever we do needs to be measurable so that we can quantify it and manage, that solution in a way that we see, okay, does it make sense for us or not make sense for us? It has to be measurable and quantifiable, right? So how would you create those matrices that are measurable and quantifiable to monitor and validate the zero trust strategies, architecture? How would you do that?
we can use different logging solutions like CloudWatch or etc. And then we will measure the metrics like the denied login attempts, or let's say uh, the re-authenticated
Context
users,
of
how many.
Keycloak, in the context of Keycloak, what would you use?
The Keycloak has native logging solutions, and we can use Keycloak logging. Will use how many users were uh, logged out of their accounts because of some conditions being or the policies being overlooked, or we will use how many users were denied their access in terms of different conditions being not fulfilled,
So
etc.
you could use CloudTrail, AWS CloudTrail, Azure Monitor, and
Yeah,
Keycloak admin, logs that they provide, admin console. It provides matrices like authentication success rate, denial rate, what time the users are logging in, what time the users are logging out. At nighttime, 2 a.m. in the morning, you know, Sharfu is logging in. What is Sharfu really doing? You
yeah,
know, and uh, John Doe is also logging in at 6 a.m. in the morning. What is he doing at 6 a.m. in the morning? He starts his work at 8 a.m., right? So
yeah.
incident sports and traffic anomalies to ensure effectiveness. That's how we measure. Okay. Are you Sharfu or are you John Doe? Who are you? Which one will you be classified as? Or none of them?
None of them.
Okay. All right. So the next is basically how would you troubleshoot uh, uh, AWS Secret Manager for endpoint security? How would you do that? Like, how would you troubleshoot if it's working or not?
Secret Manager is just a service for managing our secrets. Like if we are not able to access it, it most probably is due to the roles we have for our own user that we are using. So we can ask the admin for checking if we are giving the access to the Secret Manager, and that's the only major part. Or we can, I guess, there's not much to troubleshoot in Secret Manager because just for
Basically, this
managing
is
our.
like if the API is working correctly or not. Uh, does that person
Yeah,
really have access to this or not? Right? Sometimes
yeah.
that is another anomaly that you can detect, that the person doesn't have access to secret manager and he's trying to access and call the credentials, right? So on and so forth. Uh, what is the significance? What is the importance of federated authentication in identity access management?
Yeah, so we can use federated authentication just to make it easy for users to access our organization or any application. So just like we can log in or sign up into different web applications using our Google account, and we just click a button where Google basically acts as a third party identifier, and it makes sure that we are the one who are
Uh,
using.
you can just simply say it simplifies the user management and enhance security. That was the answer.
Yeah.
You don't have to go in deeper or something like that. Uh,
Okay.
okay. What challenges might so if there is a vulnerability on the key cloak, right, that
Yeah.
the internal pen testing team has identified, but to patch the vulnerability, it will mess up the system, right?
Okay.
And the vulnerability resides on the admin console URL of the key cloak. What would you do? Would you just go in and patch it anyway and fix it, but that will break the system? Or would you just leave it there and say, we need to do something about it? What would you do?
We will talk.
If you pass the audit, the auditor is standing on top of you and saying, like, within 1 week, you need to close this before I can give you a clean bill of health to pass the audit. What would you do?
So we will take into consideration the senior management, and we will discuss the acceptable risk or the importance of the audit we have and
You have to
relative to
pass the
the.
audit. I mean, you need
Okay.
to do something about it. You need to do,
Okay.
what would you do differently? This is a
Okay.
very job-oriented question. GPT is not going to help you with that, right? So tell me, what are you going to do?
Yeah. So we will consider changing our infrastructure first. We can
Can't
have
do it
we will.
because it's going to break up everything.
Okay.
Okay. The key is this is a bonus level question, 3 points, right?
Okay.
Key is the admin URL of the key cloak is exposed. If
We
you
will use
patch,
HTTPS.
if you patch it, you get into
Yeah.
trouble, everything breaks apart.
We will use HTTPS, or we can define different load balancer rules for our URL.
Micro segmentation, you will just segment the whole thing separately, lock it down, and remove the admin console URL completely and move it to another URL. You know that you can use microsegmentation and zero trust architecture and say only these two machines through a jump box can access it. This will allow
Yeah.
you to pass the audit because that vulnerability will not be exposed anymore because nothing can scan that except that URL will only be accessible through a jump box within your own internal network where the admin can only access it. The admin is fully controlled and monitored. And then you have completely disconnected the whole, the solution is still working, but the admin console was exposed, but now it is not exposed, but it doesn't exist. It exists somewhere else, completely tightly controlled and monitored 24/7. And then you come up with a strategy, you pass the audit, then you come up with a strategy. Okay, it's going to take 6 months to fix this vulnerability completely. That's what you
Okay.
remember this,
Right.
right? This
Okay.
will help you. All right, you lost 3 points, brother. So, that was a good question. Would have done it, but anyway. Uh, Explain the concept of dynamic policy-based firewall in a zero trust architecture. How would you do that in the context of VPC? It's a
Okay.
dynamic policy-based firewall, right? What
Okay.
what do they what do they what are these software-defined firewalls based on? Let's answer that. It's the same question. Explain me the concept of dynamic, VPC firewalls.
Yeah, so we've defined different rules, and the rules will be triggered based on the condition. For example, if a user is accessing from a particular CIDR block, then this rule may apply. Or if he is accessing from this specific location,
The
then this rule will apply.
concept is that these firewalls are based on the context of a couple of things. Example, user,
Yeah, geolocation
location,
or the IP address.
itself, the endpoint, where does it resides,
Yeah,
traffic patterns, internal, external, ingress, egress, all those kind of things, applications, right? What kinds of applications are running on it? There are different contexts, right?
yeah,
These are different. Software-defined firewalls are very different as compared to traditional networking architecture, right?
yeah.
Started jumping into tougher questions now because people are using GPT, to create presentations. I can't stop them, but I can certainly, uh, you know, ask them questions related to your own presentation. This is all related to your own presentation. I'm not coming up with anything. I'm just taking the question from there. But this is a different model, right? This is for not 407 billion model. I believe the human brain works at a very high capacity as compared to like the ingenuity, like and the what Allah has given us is very different as compared to any AI, right? Okay. What is this? What is the significance or what is the importance of single sign-on from a user experience and security perspective?
Yeah, so if your organization is using multiple accounts, so handling different multiple credentials can be tricky. Users will try to write it on their desk or do something uh, like they will try to use simpler passwords so that they can remember them, which will obviously affect your security,
You answered
and
the
it will also
question, but
make it
it's should have been single sign-on enables users to access multiple applications with a single set of
single set of credentials.
I mean,
Yeah,
it enhances the user experience completely, making sure like it's easier for us to understand, on and so forth. Okay, very simple one. Okay, let me see. What else do we have? So, what does KMS and key vault role do?
so they basically manage the encryption keys, and then we can define roles for access of these encryption keys only to the authenticated or intended users, and they are just for managing encryption keys.
So, KMS and key vault rules are centralized key management,
Yeah,
creation, and key destruction, key issuance, key revocation, all those kind of things, right? Access logging and monitoring, access management,
yeah,
integration with cloud. There's a long list of things that it can do. Okay. Uh, why TLS 1.3? Why not TLS 1.1, 1.2, or TLS 1.0? Like not 1.1. Why? I mean, why are we going for TLS 1.3?
yeah. So this is the newest one, and the previous one obviously were not that secure, and just like we have WPA for Wi-Fi. They keep on changing and enhancing themselves.
So those are vulnerable protocols, right?
Yeah, comparatively.
But not comparatively. Those are vulnerable. There's a tons of vulnerabilities over there. So you can't, there's no comparison. AWS TLS 1.3 is secure as of right now as compared to the other ones, right?
Yeah.
And there are other protocols in the practice as well. But the HTTPS, the whole internet security right now resides on HTTPS, right? Okay, let's jump on. So how would you secure an API in a zero trust architecture?
Okay, so we can use token authentication for API. Whenever request is made, it would be authenticated using a token, or we can use encrypted communication between the API and the user, and we can implement different roles or security groups. We can define an API behind a security group or a firewall. These are the three major, I guess.
Okay, with that.
Can I just plug my laptop in?
Absolutely, yes, you can. You may.
Okay.
Why not trust people? Why do we, you said never trust, always verify principle. Why?
So let's say if in an organization a hacker gets in your network, your organizational network, but if you are using a security approach where you automatically trust a traffic or request generated from internal network, then the hacker would have unlimited access to your organization. So we always assume that hacker has access to this particular technology or server, and
Oh,
he's making a
so you're
request.
saying every access request must be fully authenticated and authorized?
Yeah, it's also referred to as assume breach.
You're also saying that no automatic trust should be based on network location?
Yeah,
And you're also implying that continuous verification of identity and device health is important.
yeah.
So you're telling me that we should not trust our students until we
Yeah, we
verify?
should. Yeah,
You said it yourself.
yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
See, this is what I was talking to you about before starting this. This is very important for you.
yeah.
Okay, that was a bonus level question, so you got some points. I'm going to give you one bonus level question. This is going to be 5 points. If you score that, that will help you significantly. Okay?
Okay,
Be careful what you answer for, right? And take your time in terms of answering this question. Okay?
okay.
Let me bring in some water because I need some water.
Sure, sure.
Just give me 1 minute. Okay, Bismillah. So this is a loaded question. Okay? As a senior cloud security architect, or as a cloud security architect, okay, you are tasked with designing a zero trust architecture for a global financial institution
Okay.
that needs to maintain its infrastructure for continuous operations across AWS and Azure. That's your topic, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
with five nines. Five nines means 5 nines of availability, 99.999%. That's known as five nines. That means throughout the year, you can only have 15 to 30 minutes of downtime, something like that. The
Okay.
solution must support 100,000 concurrent users.
Mm-hmm.
Should also be able to integrate with legacy mainframe systems. Mainframe, this is LPAR, right?
Okay.
Mainframe systems. Uh, and I'm making this up right now as we speak. Okay. So this is a scenario I've been through. I'm giving you my experience.
Okay.
Uh, it's a legacy system based on, you know, OZs, the IBM LPARs. And it needs to comply with GDPR, ISO 27001, PCI DSS SOX. What it means is there's privacy data, GDPR, ISO 27001, just generic security standards. PCI DSS, payment card data, right? And
Yeah.
SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley, Section 404. The IT control section
Mm.
is essentially means IT general controls. It's a public limited company, right?
Okay.
And you have to allow for real-time threat detection and response using Keycloak as the primary IAM solution, because you need to maintain federated identity between these two clouds, right? Detail your complete architecture. Explain to me your complete architecture, including high
Okay.
availability, disaster recovery, security control, and monitoring solutions. Now,
Okay.
this is a 5-point question, right? So tell me what I would do for high availability, first of all,
Mhm.
and I will jump
Okay.
into disaster recovery, security control. Do you understood the question, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
For
Okay.
the
So for high availability, I will implement key clock at a cluster level. So I will have a whole cluster for key clock. So if in case an instance goes down, the other one's up and running. And then I will have multiple replicas and snapshots for regular snapshots for the uh, backend database for the key clock. And these are the two major and then I can have a load balancer for key clock separately, so that if it's running in a cluster, obviously we will need a load balancer. And this is for the high availability part. And the second one was disaster recovery, right? So
Mhm.
for yeah, so for that we can have simply running in a cluster would also prevent the downtime in a sense, because if it goes down, we have the backup, and regulatory snapshots will obviously help that, and we will require our snapshots to be secure. For the security part, we will have them encrypted, and we will have specific IAM roles and permissions for their access. And then the last part, can you repeat that? There were 4 points, right?
So first is high availability.
Yeah.
Second is disaster recovery, then security controls, then monitoring
Okay.
solution.
For
Security
monitoring, we
controls
can,
are good.
yeah,
Security controls.
yeah. So for monitoring, we can integrate our key cloak logs with the SIEM solutions and CloudWatch, CloudTrail, etc. And we can then use different services for projecting of those logs, like I guess Grafana is the one. Yeah, Grafana. We can use it for monitoring of our logs and metrics. We can set up alerts if our instance within a cluster goes down, or if endpoint becomes unreachable or unhealthy based on the health check paths. We can set up alerts for that, and that's pretty much it, I would say.
What about monitoring? Monitoring, you covered the monitoring solutions as well.
Yeah, the SIEM and Grafana,
I
CloudWatch.
could have been a you could have elaborated more, but I will take that answer, give you some points. Okay, good effort, good effort. Remember, this was a senior. If you would have studied DevSecOps, then you would have been able to answer much better. but the scope was very limited because there are many things that this is level 3, right? And
Yeah.
I ask you a very loaded question, but it was good. Good answer. Zayan Ahmed, uh, would you like to know your results?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, in the presentation and collectively both the marks, you will get your things anyway, right?
Yeah.
So okay. So I'm just calculating your score right now.
Yeah.
So, okay, 17 plus 9. Okay, your total score was 72%. Okay.
Okay.
In the presentation, you scored 17 out of 25. Okay. In the Q&A session, you scored 19 out of 25.
Okay.
Okay. That means you have passed your diploma. All right.
Okay.
I think that's better results than the O-level C grade, I would say. Right. But still, it's good. This is my recommendation for you. First of all, congratulations for passing the exam. You passed the exam.
Okay. Thanks
Uh,
a lot.
you can, inshallah, do a lot. There's a lot of you to learn. If you can augment yourself and do some other things, like passing some of the exams, doing Al Razak labs, right?
Okay.
The Al Razak labs, we have pretty much covered the whole portfolio of Red Hat Linux with real life examples and labs that the customers are asking us for.
Mm-hmm.
And all the Kubernetes exams are also covered in there as well. The CCAT, CK, CKA, CKS, and the whole QB astronaut, right?
Right.
Excuse me. And then there is also many other job-based, title-based qualifications, labs that are required. At the age of 19, you have done well. But if you study further and you should be able to secure a job quite easily right now as
Yeah,
a
sir. I would like to tell you, like, I have secured a job like just a
oh,
month ago. Yeah.
mashallah.
I'm
Here,
I'm I'm working as a DevOps engineer. It's a remote company. It's a US-based company. The
mashallah.
majority of the staff is from India. So
Okay.
it's just been a month, and I got that topic right at the day when I secured my job. So it was like quite handy to handle the preparation and the first job because I was giving my whole day for the job, right? I have to understand so much. So the pipeline, Jenkins pipeline, so all that.
So
So if
if
it
you
would,
I'm really proud of our students that, while they're studying, they're able to secure the job because I keep telling them, if you follow what we're asking you to do, then you will be able to secure the job. I'm really proud of you. Do submit your testimonial because many of the students, you were mentioning your cousin Nabil, who is now
yeah,
who's our student who's working in US. I can't remember because there's so many students that I'm losing track now, right? Um, but alhamdulillah, that's very good. My recommendation to you would be you're 19.
Yeah.
If you study HNC, HND, there's no need for BTech. If you do HNC, HND, NAI Ops, in 2 years' time, you can do that. There are no exams, there are
I'm
labs.
enrolled in AI Ops
You're already
right
enrolled,
now.
mashallah. That's good. If
I,
you do all of those things, go to US.
okay.
If you
Yeah,
can work
that's
for
my
the
primary
same
target.
US based company remotely, trust me, when you land in the US with the same concepts, then you can easily crack any interview,
Yeah.
inshallah. Right? At the age of 19, by the time you are 21, you will be in US. By the time you are 30, you will have a US passport in your hand,
Inshallah.
right? But again, that requires commitment, studies, and whatnot, right? If you would have been doing all A levels, you would have just sitting there doing A
Yeah.
levels. All the A
Yeah.
level students are jobless. They don't even know what to do. Then they go to university, they study university, then they're still jobless,
Yeah.
right? So I'm really happy, mashallah. That's good. That's great.
I would
Um,
like to thank you a lot because
thank
without Al
Allah.
Nafi, I wouldn't be sitting here, right?
Thank Allah, like in Islam, I know that this is all recorded. In Islam, there's a dua of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam because we have non-Muslims and Muslim students. Non-Muslim students will be coming live for the exams as well. I can't talk to them as I'm talking to you right now in the Islamic context, right? Because they have different denominations. But I can tell you one thing is that in Islam, all praises belongs to Allah from whom good things are accomplished.
No doubt.
Alhamdulillah, uh, uh, the dua is very simple. And this is what we ask Allah, right? Every single day. So all praises belongs to Allah. Alhamdulillah, from whom good things are accomplished. So whatever good we are accomplishing is because of Allah's favor. Yes, Muhammad Faisal is
Yeah.
there, but one day I won't be there. This work will still continue. And Alhamdulillah, it is expanding because now we secured Pearson. We are going for another thing now. Pearson is now already there. Pearson people are coming on site on 25th on
Okay.
our premises, training our staff, right? So you have the opportunity of doing the same HNC, HND while sitting at home, working, and studying, and then 2+1. We call this 2+1. HNC, HND is 2 years. And AI Ops, you're already doing that, right? Because of
Yeah.
AI Ops, HNC, HND is nothing. It's all about taking your classes, submitting your assignments.
Okay. So we can do that online?
It's all online. All online.
Okay.
You can do this.
Yeah.
The last year of your degree program, you can do it in US.
Right.
But before going to US, become a QB astronaut, pass some of the
Okay.
other exams, right? And our own qualification, Al Razak certification is coming up, which is going to be much more tougher because it's all labs, 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 right? And it will be related to DevOps, it will be related to SysOps and AI and whatnot. So inshallah, you can land. And 2+1 means 2 years you study within your own country, wherever you are, you study from there. Last year you do it outside. So you're young, energetic, right? If you land in the US right now, sky is the limit for you. You now have enough wisdom that you can start your own company in 4 or 5 years' time,
That's my plan.
hiring more people. So, aim high, work in
Yeah.
the industry for a few years, and then start your own company, inshallah.
Yeah.
Hire more people, build up your own businesses. That's what we have to do, right?
Yeah.
Go to the entrepreneurship, and but for that, you first have to stabilize yourself. So as soon as you get your green card, you stabilize. You say, okay, now I don't want to work for anyone. I want people to work for me, right?
Right.
So go there. So US is great option for you. UK is another option. Then the European unions are, they're another option. All of these countries are looking for talented people. And for the talented people, there are no restrictions because they're always in demand because these countries, they want them to come in and work for them, right?
Yeah.
So, mashallah, that's great. I'm really happy, really proud of you that you secured the job even before walking into this last uh, session. So that's just a cherry on the top for you. that you have completed everything. I wish you the best for AI Ops. The AI Ops
Yeah.
topic is going to be very tough, but I believe you will be able to do it. You have to do labs, focus on the labs because the labs are coming up. In January 2025, they will become mandatory for everyone to perform. As I said, like we are
Okay.
changing the, you know, uh, the scoring scheme of MCQs and all of these things, right? So we want people to go in more and more towards the hands-on, right? Because that's
Okay.
what prepares them. But then they will be the interview will be based on your hands-on role and the project, right? So keep on using AI. AI is going to be extremely helpful for you. Augment yourself, uh, but don't become completely dependent on AI, right?
Right.
Because there
Right.
are many things you have to learn. AI is just there as a collection of, uh, you know, experiences that it is learning from people, but it doesn't have its own experience. So it can share a piece of there, a piece of there, a piece of there, but it doesn't have its own soul. You know, the soul is what makes us unique, right? As Allah says
Yes.
in the Quran, you do not know about the soul. You have very little knowledge. I have all the knowledge. There are many other ayahs of the soul. That is the human essence. AI can never have that. It will never have that, no matter what we try, whatever. It will always be there as a tool that we can use to augment ourselves. So keep on augmenting yourself with AI in a way that it helps you in your job. Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
Just a question, like you mentioned, I would have to do some labs in the start of the meeting. So how would I know
Those are going
about
to be
that?
very easy for you. We're going to send it to you, but
Okay.
you will submit your diploma paperwork. That will be submitted.
Okay.
You will be able to get your diploma.
Okay.
So that will be submitted in the next batch. This batch, we rooted out people who were cheating, essentially.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we are now reaching out to them and say, like, have you done this thing? If you accept it, we will let you go. If you deny it, then we'll show you the evidence. And if we show you the evidence, it's going to be a big problem. So uh, but it happens in every institute. People tend to
Yeah.
cheat. Our job is to make sure that we maintain the highest integrity of the qualifications. And our job is here to assist you. We cannot stop anyone from relying on AI. Yes, you have to learn how to harness the power of AI, but don't cheat the system by using AI. That's something that
Yeah.
we are against. Okay. Thank you
Right.
for the time, Zayan Ahmed. Say my salam and my, you know, to your parents and ask them for duas. I'm really happy when
Okay.
a student comes in and tells me that he has secured a job. It makes me really happy. That means we have done our purpose. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
I will see you next time.
Okay.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.